The manila packet fell from my quivering palms, scattering legal paperwork across my father's mahogany desk like fallen leaves on a desk. I had to reread the words. Afraid my eyes were deceiving me, my name is Chloe. And I have now discovered that my parents will exclude me. Did you locate the insurance documents belonging to my mother? Viviana's voice emanated from downstairs, startling me. I offered to find them while they were discussing my brother Elijah's business success. But I hadn't called yet. My voice remained unexpectedly steady despite the tumult of emotions trying to dismantle me. I collected myself. I swiftly perused the documents. Although one paragraph consistently stood out, all assets are to be transferred to Elijah Mackenzie. Laughter ascended from below. The familiar warmth of my father Edmund's chuckle intertwining with Elijah's an assured tone. The familiar noises of my upbringing. Perpetually experiencing a sense of alienation while observing Chloe. My best friend Leah's message illuminated my phone. Inquiring about the family while having supper. I took a photograph of the will and texted it to her. Her response was, "Contact me immediately, I will descend shortly." Entering the hallway bathroom, I pushed Leah's touch and held my breath. Anticipating her true voice, it was a fervent murmur, "When did they execute this?" "The date indicates last month." I responded, clutching the edge of the sink immediately following Elijah's ascension to CEO. While you were preoccupied with managing your own responsibilities, a successful business is one that you have established from the ground up, evidently. That is not the case, I observed my reflection in the mirror. My green eyes luminous with unshed tears. Tears cascaded down dark hair, disrupted from its meticulous arrangement that his mother consistently maintained, making it evident that Elijah's achievements hold greater significance. A knock at the door startled me. "Dear. Regarding my father. Inform your mother that dessert is being served." I concluded the call with Leah. I splashed cold water on my face and donned my most radiant smile in the dining room. It was a tribute to familial achievement, particularly featuring Elijah's graduation photographs. Business awards and press clippings adorned the walls, showcasing my own accomplishments. Were confined to a solitary family photograph from my college graduation, stored away in a corner. My mother remarked while serving tiramisu. Elijah was only informing us regarding his new development project. I found it fascinating and successfully took my seat. Inform them about the Anderson contract I inquired about, referencing the client he appropriated from my consulting services last month. Elijah's smile briefly waned as we concentrated on ancient history. The future is now. Speaking of the future, my mother added that Elijah is contemplating acquiring a residence in the vicinity. Would be delightful, since it would bring him nearer. I punctured my dessert with additional force. My father softly remarked to Chloe that you could exert less force than necessary. Relocate nearer to that downtown apartment. My current residence must be becoming congested. It is satisfactory for me, I responded, contemplating my penthouse office and the view of the city I had acquired through years of arduous labor, which seemingly held no significance for them. May indeed transform. Your perspective will shift upon encountering the appropriate individual, my mother remarked. Elijah. Inform Chloe about this. The charming attorney you encountered at the country club prompted me to hastily push my chair back. I should depart for an early meeting. Tomorrow. But you have scarcely consumed your dessert, my mother objected. Having misplaced I took my purse, kissed my father's cheek out of habit, and departed. Chloe. Elijah called after me to remind you not to forget the upcoming charity gala this week. The family ought to exhibit a cohesive stance. As I turned back to meet his gaze, I would not wish to disappoint my family. The journey home was a haze of streetlights and muffled cries. I parked in my building's garage and remained there, my hands squeezing the steering wheel until my knuckles grew white. Leah's phone buzzed again. "Come over, I have wine and a shoulder to cry on," I began while I was typing. I received another message from Valeria, a colleague in real estate development. Recalled our discussion regarding property rights and discovered something pertinent. Fascinating. Contact me when you are able. I fixated on the message as things fell into place regarding the family residence of my parents. The embodiment of their pride and joy, representing their idyllic life with their exemplary son. If I postpone the wine gathering, I inform Leah that I need to conduct a study into something that is opening. I commenced searching property data on my laptop, my hands steady and motivated. They should have pursued purpose instead of anger, if they believed they could exclude me from the family legacy. They were mistaken. I was finished being the obedient daughter. It was time to demonstrate my true self. Are you implying that the ground beneath your parents' house is not encompassed in the property deed? Leah, she leaned forward on my office couch. The wine glass forgotten in her grasp, I clarified a land contract by dispersing the documents across my coffee table prevalent in the 1960s when the house was constructed. My grandfather purchased simply the house, not the underlying land. And no one currently possesses the land, as the original leasing business declared bankruptcy in the 1990s, resulting in the land remaining in legal limbo ever since I accessed the property information on my screen. My parents are likely unaware. They are aware that property taxes are solely assessed on the house itself, causing Leah's eyes to widen in surprise. In theory, an individual may purchase the property directly beneath them, with a gratifying click. I closed my laptop as Leah placed her wine glass down. That is delightfully wicked, I adore it. My phone vibrated. Valeria is calling. I answered her on speaker. She stated without preamble. You will not believe this, I talked. According to my friend at the county assessor's office, the land will be up for public auction next month. Leah applauded, hands discreetly gestured. Inquiring, what is the initial bid? I responded, that is optimal. The portion is exceedingly tiny due to the legal complexities faced by most developers. I would not engage with it due to the prevailing structure. I recalled every disparaging remark my mother had ever made. Provide me with the specifics of my career choices. I wish to be prioritized thereafter. After hanging up, Leah poured more wine. Your mother is certain to suffer a stroke when she hears this. Determines whether she discovers that the acquisition may be executed via a shell. The corporation will remain unaware that I am referring to your mother. Leah, who arrived social media post on her phone. Observe what she shared yesterday. A photograph from the country club depicts Elijah shaking hands with several executives, accompanied by the comment, so proud of. My son's recent accomplishment mirrors his father's path. It is amusing, I remarked. While eating a large, she took a glass of wine and never disclosed anything regarding my company's inclusion in the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Do you recall when she mentioned this? Your business was merely a pastime during the Christmas meal immediately following Elijah's announcement of his engagement to her. Identify the individual who endured merely 3 months. I remained upright, pacing. You are aware of what truly transpired. It pains me that my father has changed. He once attended all my debate competitions and graduation speeches. One day, it seemed as though he simply relinquished the struggle against his mother's narrative. Elijah was the golden child, while I merely existed. My phone vibrated once again with a text message. Father, you departed abruptly this evening. Is everything satisfactory? Let us discuss it. Devil, I mumbled, displaying the message to Leah. Are you going to inform him about the will? What's the point? I retorted, discarding the matter after setting the phone aside. He signed it as well. The following morning, I saw Valeria at her office. Valeria had an abundance of documents scattered across her desk, with post-its indicating crucial pages. She mentioned that the auctions are in 3 weeks and that she has already initiated the paperwork for your shell company. However, Chloe, are you certain regarding this? Why would I not be? Once you possess the land, you will have tangible assets. Authority over your family's residence is significant. I contemplated the family photographs on the walls, are meticulously organized to illustrate Elijah's journey. They achieved success by making their choice. Now I am choosing mine. There is an additional factor. Valeria presented an additional document to Natasha Ray's development company. They have been investigating the vicinity. If they discover the auction, they will not proceed. I stated emphatically, how much liquidity, what capital do I require? As Valeria indicated. My phone illuminated with a group message from my mother regarding the family supper on Sunday. Elijah has thrilling news to convey. I speculated. What is it? Valeria? I did not research anything. I merely signed the preliminary documentation. Family matters. Please send me the remainder for consideration later that afternoon. I stood at my office window overlooking the downtown skyline I had diligently endeavored to join. My corporate logo illuminated a skyscraper 2 streets away. Evidence that I was not only Elijah's younger sister is no longer present. My phone vibrated with an email from Leah while cleaning. I discovered a photo from my business launch party 10 years ago, in which I am grinning. My father was present. his arm across my shoulders. Exuding true pride, I felt a sense of pride, however. My mother and Elijah were conspicuously absent as I touched the screen. Reminiscing at that point, I accessed my banking application and initiated a money transfer for the in the auction game. I murmured to my mirror in the window. Let us observe how they appreciate experiencing powerlessness for a change. The auction room hummed with subdued activity as I fixed my wig and glasses. Valeria sat next to me. Both of us engaged in discussion, attired in conservative business suits that would seamlessly integrate with the other developers and investors of Lot 247 approaching, she said. Remember, allow me to execute the task, you are merely here to observe. I nodded, my heart racing. As the auctioneer cleared his throat for the next item, Lot 247. A land tract in the Heritage District. Is currently a rented property. The current structure attracted the attention of several developers contemplating the unfamiliar individuals in the crowd. I maintained a neutral demeanor upon observing Natasha Ray 3 rows ahead. Her crimson power suit was unmistakable. The bidding commenced at a modest level, precisely as Valeria had anticipated. But with a few lackluster offers, proposals from the front row were trivial. Then Natasha raised her hand after waiting for 2 additional bids and a subsequent price increase. Valeria joined my palms. I was perspiring as the figure climbed. This constituted my whole savings together with the business loan hinges on the forthcoming minutes. Currently at $850,000. The auctioneer, Natasha, turned and scanned the audience. Her gaze fixed, she briefly engaged with mine. But the masquerade remained intact. She turned back and raised her paddle for the final occasion. $900,000. Valeria gazed at me, and I presented her with the tiniest nod. Was $1.2 million, she spoke clearly, and the room fell hushed at Natasha's words. Her shoulders tensed. But she did not turn around again, indicating that $1.2 million had been bid. Going again. Sold to bidder number 183. My hands trembled as we signed the documentation outside the auction building, prompted Valeria to finally smile. Congratulations. You now possess the land beneath your family's residence. Buzzed while discussing family. I received a text from Elijah expressing his absence at Sunday supper. My mother is preparing your favorite lasagna. Indeed. It is my favorite, I murmured, recollecting how she consistently prepared Elijah's favored meat sauce rather than my vegetarian recipe. Mackenzie. A voice called from behind. We turned to see Natasha Ray approaching with her hand extended. I do not believe we have been introduced. I am Natasha Ray from Pinnacle Development. I maintained my wig in place, removed the glasses. There is no point in concealing anything now. Chloe Mackenzie. That was a delight. It was a daring action. Her smile lacked sincerity. And I am intrigued by it. Your intentions for the land are evident. I reciprocated her smile and will proceed accordingly. I discovered my father waiting in the lobby at my office. My stomach sank. Did he somehow already know? Father. What are you doing here? Isn't a father permitted to visit his daughter at her workplace? He surveyed the contemporary environment. I expressed my appreciation, stating that this is extremely outstanding. Thank you, I responded with caution. What is it? He sighed, his shoulders drooping, and remarked that your mother is concerned about you. You've skipped 3 consecutive Sunday dinners. I have been occupied. I guided him to my location. Closing the office door signifies that operating a successful business requires time. Oh. Wait, that only applies when Elijah performs the action. This is unjust. Chloe. Is it not? I intervened. I displayed the photograph of the will on my phone to him, intending to discuss the inherent unfairness. The color drained from my face from his expression. Whence did you acquire this? Does it hold significance? You endorsed it, Father. You and my mother and I concluded that I was not worth including. It is not as straightforward as it seems. For he never initiated it. I turned to the window, battling tears. With this family I have a meeting. Please join me for dinner with Chloe on Sunday. Elijah upon announcing his engagement. I turned around once more. Is this number 4? Your mother undoubtedly desires the entire family to be present. I am certain of that. I possess the property deed in my briefcase. I will arrive after him. I informed Leah that the acquisition of the land is complete. She exclaimed in astonishment, inquiring how it transpired. I am both terrified and exhilarated. I am uncertain why I have acquired the deed for Elijah's announcement there is another engagement on Sunday. Please confirm your attendance since the time is ideal not yet. I remarked, contemplating Natasha's calculating smile at the auction. I require all my components were arranged when my phone alerted me with an email from Natasha Ray interested in discussing a prospective cooperation about the Heritage District property during dinner tomorrow. Grinned. Recalling each disparaging remark and every unfulfilled accomplishment, Elijah's disregard for me made the land deed feel heavy in my hands with the potential for power and vengeance. I whispered and commenced composing my response to Natasha regarding $15 million. I placed my wine glass down, meticulously examining Natasha's visage from across the restaurant table. Which is rather a proposal for a straightforward land lease, Natasha chuckled. As we are both aware of the circumstances, there is nothing straightforward regarding that land. Chloe. Particularly given the residence. My fork halted midway to my mouth. You have completed your homework. Naturally, she leaned forward. Just as you completed your studies prior to the auction, the inquiry is on your true objective. Perhaps I simply have an affinity for real estate. Investments. Please. Natasha indicated for further wine. You borrowed against your assets. The corporation intends to acquire the ground beneath your parents' residence. This matter is personal. And I have been observant if I was drinking another glass of wine when I made contact. We could help each other to assist one another. She retrieved a tablet and slid it across the table. An examination of our development plans for the region revealed renderings of a contemporary mixed-use complex featuring shops, office spaces, and luxury accommodations. Condos are to be constructed at the site of my parents' former residence, which you intend to demolish. I stated unequivocally that we aim to rejuvenate the area. Your parents I would, of course, be amply compensated. My phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. Where are you? The family meeting at the house contains crucial news. Excuse me, I informed Natasha while distancing myself from the table to contact him. Inquiring about the urgency. Upon inquiring, he responded that my parents are selling the house, causing my stomach to drop. Some developers have been making offers in the neighborhood, as they believe it is time to downsize. I briefly looked back at Natasha, who was serenely sipping her wine. Inquired when this decision was made. Addressing her mother, we are already discussing condominiums in Florida. Please come here so we may deliberate on the matter. 20 minutes later, I entered my parents' living room to discover them surrounded by the coffee table. Real estate listings were dispersed everywhere. Your mother scarcely glanced up. Elijah discovered the ideal location in Palm. We may be neighbors at the beach because you are also relocating to Florida. I inquired of him. Julia, he adored the beach and embraced his fiancée. The most recent one I had encountered. I inquired meticulously about this house, reflecting on all the memories associated with it. Precisely twice. My mother occasionally patted my hand in a condescending manner, indicating that we must sometimes relinquish control, let go of the past. The proposal from Pinnacle Development is exceedingly advantageous. Decline. You have already conversed with them. I struggled to maintain my composure. A representative contacted us last week. My father remarked that they were quite professional. They are, of course, offering well above market value. I mumbled. What was that? I retrieved my phone to text Valeria regarding the sale. Action is required. Hurry. Chloe. Dear. My mother's voice interrupted my thoughts. While you're here, we should discuss the will. My attention was suddenly drawn to it, particularly about the house. As the executive, Elijah, we will need to implement some alterations about the sale. I must interrupt, as I need to depart for a dinner meeting of more significance. My mother's disapproval was evident, as an authority on familial matters. I proceeded directly to the restaurant where Natasha remained. I awaited your arrival, aware that I had accused you while taking my seat. Knowing they were scheming, I was aware they were contemplating it. Her smile indicates a shift. Does it not? In what manner? You now face a decision. Either disclose your ownership and halt the sale, perhaps jeopardizing your family during the process of relationships. She halted while swirling her wine. Or you may choose to partner, facilitate a substantial profit while allowing people to perceive that the decision was theirs. I reflected on my mother's influence. Pat. Elijah's nonchalant declaration regarding Florida was dismissive of my father's concerns. Calm acquiescence to the entirety of it. What precisely are you suggesting regarding Natasha's smile? Expanded. Allow them to execute the selling agreement, once completed. We disclose the land, they will feel humiliated. As the property was owned independently, however, by that time, it will be inconsequential since the house will have been sold. They will receive their payment. And you will attain your contentment development benefits all. She lifted her drink. What is your response regarding my phone? I received another SMS from Leah inquiring about the progress of Operation Revenge. I glanced at it. Natasha's anticipatory expression was directed towards the development plans displayed on the tablet. Steel and glass will replace the house where I grew up, completely erasing my childhood home, obliterated. Like the other accomplishments that have been expunged from familial memory, I required time to contemplate. I stated last. Do not delay excessively. Natasha, she placed her business card on the table. Opportunities like this do not linger. I remained at the table long after she departed, gazing at the card and contemplating when revenge had become so complicated. Your mother did what? Leah nearly dropped her coffee cup as we were seated. The Pinnacle development team was invited to my office the next morning on Sunday during dinner. I proposed a discussion regarding the future of the neighborhood while pacing. Accompanied by cannabis, host the identical meal during which Elijah is reportedly announcing his engagement. It will be a significant event. I noticed 3 missed calls on my phone. My father's mother invited half of the country club. Are you attending? Before I could respond, Valeria entered abruptly, brandishing a document. We have an issue as Natasha Ray has just submitted it. She cannot obtain expedited construction permits without owning the land. I indicated that she is identified as your representative. The parents signed the intent to sell as preliminary documents, and Valeria disseminated the papers. Chloe is swiftly across my desk. My phone vibrated once more. It's my father at the moment. I responded to Chloe. He expressed gratitude and inquired if I might meet him for coffee privately at 2000 hours. Minutes later, I located him in our former favorite cafe, the one we frequented following my debate competitions in high school. He appeared older and fatigued. He stated, without preamble, that he discovered something in the attic, sliding a folder across while searching for documents related to the house sale. I saw newspapers on the table, meticulously curated clippings of every article ever published regarding my business accomplishments. I retained my Forbes profile and the Chamber of Commerce award, including even the little write-up following my initial customer signing. You retained the document? Naturally. He swirled his coffee. I acknowledge that I have not consistently supported you. Chloe, your mother has robust concepts on familial legacy, specifically pertaining to Elijah's legacy, that I ought to possess. He exerted further effort, gazing upward with tearful eyes. It was not my proposal. Yet you endorsed it. I have regretted my decision daily since. He produced another document. That is the reason I had this document prepared last week. It is a fresh will delineating the distribution. I have not yet shown your mother anything equally between Elijah and me. Dad. Elijah extended his hand towards me. But before I responded, there was something else you should know. I am aware of the house sale. It caused my heart to stop. What is the status? Tessa, our attorney, she discovered discrepancies in the property documents about the land lease. The cafe door chimed, and my mother's voice pierced the moment sharply. Edmund, what are you doing? We both turned to observe her standing there, with Elijah beside her, holding coffee. My father stated emphatically to my daughter, would you like to join us? Mother stated, as she settled into a chair, that we need to consider the supper for Sunday. The Pinnacle. The team has confirmed the plans, and Elijah is ready to make a significant statement about the will. Upon blurting it out, the cafe fell silent. My mother's complexion drained and then became resolute. How dare you peruse our private documents? She began. How dare you exclude me from the family? I retorted. Elijah mentioned the family company, which made me laugh. Unfortunately, my company is more successful than yours. But that has never been significant. Has it? It was Chloe. My mother's voice was icy. You're creating a scene. No. Mother. I am not. Ultimately, I voiced my concerns and retrieved my phone to access the property data as we are all present. There is pertinent information regarding the house sale that you should be aware of. Elijah inquired, my finger poised over the screen, prepared to reveal everything to them. Then I observed my father's countenance, the hope evident inside. Alongside the new will in his pocket, my phone vibrated. Alerting me to the urgency of Natasha's situation, I have a bargain. I observed my family's severe opposition. Particularly my mother's about Elijah. I expressed concern for my father's repressed shame, which stemmed from years of feeling overlooked, being marginalized while observing my accomplishments being disregarded, and the land lease suggested that you should have examine it before finalizing any agreements with Pinnacle, which concerns my mother seeking your trust in this matter. I got up and started gathering my belongings. Mother, I will attend dinner on Sunday to make an announcement of my own. Outside, I informed Natasha of my decision while observing my family through the cafe window. My father was extracting the new will. While my mother's expression darkened, as she perused it, Natasha requested to revisit the development plans. But this time I called it my way. Then hung up and texted Leah that Sunday dinner is scheduled. The response was instantaneous. They wanted my presence for support. I observed my surroundings. Mother stormed out of the cafe, with Elijah following her, while my father sat alone, his head in his hands, typed back, bringing popcorn for Sunday dinner. Felt like a powder bomb about to explode. My mother had surpassed herself with crystal glasses, fine china, and fresh flowers. The Pinnacle development team convened at one end of the dining table. Natasha Ray appeared completely at ease while conversing with Elijah and his fiancée Julia Chloe. My mother's voice was melodiously pleasant for the guests. Would you assist me in the kitchen? I pursued her, noticing Leah's encouraging nod from her position beside my father. What is she doing here? My mother snarled once we were alone, nodding toward Leah, indicating that she is my +1. Once I commenced putting canapés on a silver tray, much to Julia's style that is distinct. Julia is family for the time being, I said, contemplating Elijah's past. I heard that throughout 3 encounters, she seized my arm and warned me not to dare make a move. The event tonight regarding the Pinnacle agreement is of paramount importance. I would not even consider missing it. Mother, I smiled warmly. I have come to make my announcement. Recall her gaze restricted. The announcement you will observe in the dining room. Natasha was in the midst of it. The development will entirely alter the neighborhood's property values will soar. Sounds lovely. My mother grinned. Edmund, doesn't it sound? My father nodded absently, pushing food around his plate. He had not. Elijah raised his glass, having not glanced at anyone since the cafe incident prior to engaging in commercial discussions. Julia and I have an announcement to make. Here it is. Leah murmured. Julia squeezed my hand under the table. We are getting married. Massive diamond ring. And we are constructing our ideal residence right here in the. My mother wept upon entering the area, which is part of the Pinnacle development, in a state of ecstasy. Natasha smiled like a cat that has caught the cream, while my father only gazed at his congratulations on the plate. I remarked while standing, what impeccable timing I possess. Announcement to Chloe. My father's tone conveyed a caution regarding the fact that I retrieved a folder primarily pertaining to the land for the development project. Natasha's smile faded slightly, and my mother stopped abruptly. Elijah inquired about the crying, to which I recounted a humorous incident involving my fainting spells. Copy of the property documents indicate that the land beneath this house possession has been detached from the property title since 1960, and 3 weeks ago it was acquired during the public auction. The room fell into a profound silence, instigated by the perilous tone of my mother's speech. I encountered her gaze across the table during a gathering with my colleagues. So technically, I can sell the house to Pinnacle, but the land that belongs to me has caused havoc. Mother overturned her wine glass, prompting Elijah to vociferate about familial commitment, while Julia grasped her ring. Horror. You cannot do this, my mother cried. Actually, she can, Natasha replied. She interrupted neatly, and she possesses every right to do so. All eyes shifted to her. As you were aware, Elijah blamed me, naturally. I was aware. Why do you believe I invited Chloe to collaborate with Pinnacle? Natasha smiled. She possesses the most vital component of the development puzzle. Buddy, my mother's face was scarlet. There will be none. You were ready to sell this, our family's home, to strangers. I reclaimed the residence that was intended to be integral to Elijah's ideal existence, similar to all other injustices. Elijah merely commenced with fairness. I found it amusing. Excluding me from the will was like disregarding every accomplishment I have ever attained. My father gently stated that it was fair. Prompting everyone to turn towards him, my mother inquired about my accomplishments, including every newspaper clipping and prize I retained. He ultimately glanced up. As you were preoccupied with arranging Elijah's future, my daughter established her own empire. Yet I never afforded her the recognition she deserved, my mother exclaimed. No, Viviana. Enough. As Edmund stood up. Chloe, regardless of your intentions for the property, it is your prerogative, you have rightfully earned it. Natasha cleared her throat. Perhaps now is an opportune moment to explore Chloe's alternate development suggestion. Retrieved an additional set of paperwork. The house remains, but we will construct around it, establishing a hybrid environment that maintains the neighborhood's historical essence while advancing into the future. The family maintains their residence according to my stipulations. Your terms? My mother said. Yes. Let us commence. With a revised will, distributing all assets equitably. An acknowledgement of reality. Recognition of my position within this family rendered the room hushed once more. Elijah eventually spoke, squeezing my hand more firmly, stating, I will sign whatever you desire. Just do not demolish our residence. I glanced at my mother, who sat tense with rage, then at my father, who granted me the slightest nod of encouragement, prompted me to respond by raising my, shall we discuss the provisions of the new will? Mother? I pushed it across the glass. A week had elapsed since the dinner revelation at the lawyer's conference table. We had finally arrived at the moment of truth. This constitutes blackmail, she stated, her fingers poised, shaking as she grasped the pen. I stood firm. Leah. Aware of the repercussions, my father is beside me. You cannot sell the house without my consent. Will not receive it until circumstances alter. Elijah, seated by our mother, reached for her hand. Mother should simply sign it. Chloe is correct. This has persisted long enough. She turned to Elijah, tears welling. After everything I have done for you. It is precisely the issue, he stated softly. Everything you have accomplished, for I have nothing for Chloe. I had never perceived it before, but I recognize it now. Tessa, our family. The lawyer cleared her throat and stated, Mrs. Mackenzie, the terms are quite reasonable and equitable. Joint decision-making authority on family assets and a position on the board of the new development project. And my mother's voice in the house was scarcely a whisper that persists in the family trust. As I stated, with all of us involved, equal trustees, eliminating favoritism and clandestine decisions. My father. Vivana, please step forward. Our daughter has created something extraordinary. It is imperative that we recognize that by demanding respect, we are effectively holding our house hostage. Rectified an issue you never willingly provided. The room became quiet, save for the gentle ticking. My mother finally took up the pen from the wall clock, stating, You'll regret this, proclaimed with a flourish. Inciting familial discord, nay. Mother. You did. Upon signing, Natasha entered into a development deal at an opportune moment. Shall we deliberate about the neighborhood's future? The subsequent hour was a whirlwind of signatures and legal terminology involving my mother. Elijah obstinately averted his gaze from anyone signing in the designated areas. With stiff gestures unexpectedly endorsed every proposal, even recommending methods to integrate my incorporating the company's branding into the development process is an additional aspect. I mentioned the most recent document was signed regarding the family photo wall in the house. What is the status of it? Mother declared that it is all being removed and replaced with a new one, highlighting the accomplishments of all individuals. I had such cuttings from my father. Stated promptly, and images from your corporate launches and award ceremonies. Elijah contributed some as well. From the time you talked at Harvard Business, I was astonished that you attended the presentation at school. I did. Your sister looked down. I should have addressed anything at that moment. How impressive it was. Yet I would not have endorsed. Our mother concluded with bitterness. Is that your assertion? Yes. He replied emphatically, that is precisely correct. Natasha effectively compiled the contracts. I would assert that this has been Chloe. Shall we convene tomorrow to discuss the groundbreaking ceremony following her departure? My mother remained standing. Suddenly. I assume you are all quite satisfied with yourselves. Mother. I remarked, this is not about appeasing others, it is about rectifying what is flawed. Nothing was damaged until you shattered everything. My voice faltered each time you consistently disregarded my accomplishments while extolling Elijah. Neglecting my contributions each instance in which you made me feel inadequate fractured something within me. And now Leah grabbed my shoulder supportively, indicating that I am finally strong enough to rectify the situation. My father positioned himself next to me. I persisted with the inquiry. Are you strong? Sufficient to acknowledge your error? My mother surveyed the room at Elijah's resolute expression in response to my father's silent endorsement of the signed paperwork altered everything, for an instant. A glimmer appeared in her eyes, recognition or regret. I require time, she stated. Take all the time you require. I responded. The house is not going anywhere. She departed without uttering another word, with my father trailing behind her after briefly embracing me. Elijah held onto that photograph from my time at Harvard. I said that you have preserved it well. I retain many items as well. He retrieved his phone, displaying a folder of saved articles pertaining to my company, of which I was proud. I was uncertain how to express it without provoking my mother. And now he has grinned. I apologize for the delay. But you are truly remarkable, sister. After everyone departed, Lee embraced me firmly, prompting me to confess, you indeed accomplished everything. As I observed the signed documents, but why does it not? She responded sagely, emphasizing that this matter transcends mere outcomes. Even though it feels like victory, it is no longer about winning or losing, it is about healing. I nodded, reflecting on my mother. Her expression as she executed the will indicated that the most challenging phase was likely just commencing. Leah consented. But this time you are not confronting it alone, since the building crews involved had ultimately departed for the day, rendering the area serenely silent while I remained in the living room of the family house overseeing the installation of the new photo wall that replaced the previous Elijah-centric exhibit has been meticulously stored, supplanted by a balanced chronicle of our family's reality. Historically. My phone vibrated with a text from Natasha confirming the press event tomorrow's opening is still under consideration by your mother, I responded. Although I was aware of her indecision, Leah remarked, stepping back to see the flawless symmetry. Examine the equilibrium between your Forbes cover, Elijah's Business Week story, and your father's contributions. Engineering awards were conferred upon Valeria for modifying a frame. Unbeknownst to others, numerous patients were present when my father entered via the front entrance. Carrying a tiny box, I discovered additional photographs in the attic. Dad, we are depleting our wall space, I laughed but ceased upon observing his expression as he retrieved a dusty frame. Your mother captured this image on the day you secured your inaugural debate championship. The photograph depicted a youthful version of me radiating with joy. I received a trophy while my mother stood beside me, genuinely beaming. I had forgotten that moment. I recall the day she gently took me for ice cream, and a smile emerged. Subsequently, prior to Elijah's admission to Harvard, my father completed his tasks beforehand. Everything transformed. Leah proposed placing it directly in the center. As we proceeded, the door opened once more, revealing Elijah, who appeared fatigued however resolute. Julia departed as he proclaimed without preamble what I had turned from. Why does she want the fairy tale, the ideal family, and the societal wedding in the development? He shrugged. I informed her that I was finished with pretense. Are you all right? I said. Actually. Indeed. He examined the photo wall. Is that from the debate championship? My mother seemed content. My father remarked that we were all happy until we lost our direction. A voice emanated from the doorway, prompting us to turn and observe our mother standing there, grasping her purse as though it were a barrier. She stated rigidly that tomorrow is the development opening. I presume you anticipate my attendance. She entered the room, her eyes fixed on me, as I cautiously replied that she should attend only if she desired to affix to the photo wall. You retained the authentic ancient photographs. You articulated those that convey our complete narrative, not merely the interpretation you wish to perceive. She extended her hand, making contact with the photograph of the debate championship in which you took great pride that day. I felt a sense of pride until you made the decision regarding Elijah's successes with a sole focus, until I persuaded myself that it was true. She said quietly. I was mistaken. Chloe. The room fell silent. In 32 years. I had never heard those words from her. My focus was solely on creating the ideal, the family image that I obliterated. She turned to confront me. Development plans you made. Considering the residential construction while conserving the surrounding elements considerations during the creation of something novel, that is what I ought to have pursued with our mother Elijah initiated, let me conclude. She sat squarely in her seat. I cannot alter the past. But I can improve in the present regarding tomorrow's opening. I inquired about the possibility of speaking to someone, if permitted. I would like to publicly acknowledge the accomplishments of both of my children. At Leah, who nodded supportively. And then at my father, who was smiling amidst tears. Understood. I stated. But no further pretense. No more illusion of a flawless family. She concurred. She approached the wall. Scrutinizing each photograph meticulously, we should include the newspaper clipping from your inaugural real estate transaction and Elijah's Community Service Award. He received recognition for teaching commercial skills to at-risk children. You were aware of that? Elijah, she admitted. With surprise. That she possessed greater knowledge than she had demonstrated. Her pride had restrained her. To recognize any elements that deviated from my concept as we collaborated on additions as I organized the photographs and rearranged others. I sensed a change in the atmosphere of the room. Weightlifting is akin to a window opening after an extended winter. My mother remarked. Ultimately, I am now reflecting on our family's narrative, which reveals the truth displayed upon the wall, are our victories and mistakes. The flawless moments and the chaotic ones, all authentic. All belonging to us. The reality suits us well, I remarked. As my mother grasped my hand thereafter, Elijah's affirmative response was given gently as the setting sun created long shadows outside. Shadows through the windows illuminate our new family photo wall. However imperfect yet ultimately beautifully candid.